Hello and welcome to this very special episode of the Net That Haul matchup show, Gameweek 35. As always, I'm FPL Nima and I'm joined by my fellow co-host at FPL Lens, Gabriel. And we have exciting news today as we welcome the return of Mr. Mariner himself. Good morning, Chris.
Hello. Yes, it's rather early across here, but it's nice to be back. And yes, contrary to public belief, I do have a heart.
Nice to see you back in fighting spirits, Chris. And Gabriel, is it timestamp? This is 3 p.m. over on the West Coast for you.
3 p.m. over here in Arizona in the desert, and the weird, like a Voltron that we are, the three of us, we're back and we're here, and it's good to be together.
It is so nice to be back together. I think the last time I saw Chris was at the Liverpool game at the Emirates where Arsenal got battered, but we got some Robertson points, so you take what you can. Oh yeah, I've been getting Robertson points for a while.
There you go.
You saved my game week this week as well. As always, we've added a nice little graphic, or Chris has added a nice little graphic of his 73 overall rank in the world right now. So amazing time to have you on the show as well in these final 4 weeks to go.
I don't know how I've managed to hold it on, really, given the fact I did the real thing of picking a bus team in the back of an ambulance, then really have not been at all engaged really in recent weeks. I was saying to Gabe off stream that, yeah, I've probably been less engaged than I ever have been. So I've been holding on, but yeah, we'll come on to the Minileague, and I think you can probably see what's happened. And but I'll come on to last week.
We'll come to the Minileague soon.
Yeah,
well, you were top when we checked it last time. I don't know if our friend Obai Eid has managed to go back ahead, but
he's a tough nut to crack, is Obai, I'll tell you. But
FPL Milanista. And then Gabriel, how's it going? I know you've obviously when we spoke last week, you were already on the beach, weren't you? Are you even more on the beach, or how are things looking on your side?
The first few days of vacation where you really, that's when you start to realize how stressed you really were, and you didn't realize how stressed you were until you take that vacation. Like those first few days is like when you kind of detox, and I feel like I've detoxed, and now I'm truly on the beach. I feel the beach in my blood right now. So this is the best time of the year for me.
You definitely seem a lot more relaxed actually about the whole thing. I think I don't know if I kind of mentioned obviously our good friend Hibbo that Ben Krillin doesn't stop working. He put a tweet out today saying that the Premier League fixtures are announced in 50 days for the 2022-23 season. And he said that the matches start in 100 or 101 days, and that the first double game week bar COVID is 200 days. And Hibbo's response just was, mate, fair play to Ben Krillin, but the last thing I want to fucking see is next year's fixture.
Yeah, I think the moral of the story is give us a flaming break.
Yeah, it's like we've not even got through these 4 weeks yet, my lord. And there was obviously the massive announcement very conveniently today before we went live. It's good we didn't go live yesterday, now that we know when Man City play in double game week 36. But before we get into all of that, why don't we say hi to a few of the guys who've been patiently waiting in the chat, and then we'll go to the mini league and the philosophy. So first person in tonight, FPL Jonesberg, good to see you, mate. Nehal, thank you for becoming a member and becoming a hauler as well on the YouTube. Akib, early morning in Bangladesh.
It's 4 a.m. there. It was mad.
Wow, he woke up even 2 hours before you, my lord. Yeah, that is crazy. Mike Halpin's burning the midnight.
I asked him if he woke up or if he was coming back from the club, but he said he woke up. He actually set his alarm, so he had to turn his alarm off.
That's incredible. I love that. And Mike Halpin, good to see you, mate. At Fest as well on Friday. We got Blue Nix as well. Good to see you, mate. We will talk about Reece James. And I think if he plays right wing back, which is 55% according to the manager, then there's a haul. If he plays right centre back, which he said there's 45%, who knows? It might be a 1-pointer. So who knows what's going on there? And FPL Dallas, good to see you as well, mate. And FPL Dchin, we'll shout out a few more people as they come into the show. But yeah, if you want to go to the mini league next, I guess, and then we'll get going with the show.
Am I controlling it, or are you?
Yeah, I think you are. I hadn't put it back on. I was waiting to see this. I was saying he has overtaken you. So,
I mean, look, shall I do this? Well,
why don't you give us the run-up?
I'm in second place. I've been overtaken by Obai again. It seems like it's a regular thing, this, at the moment. Interestingly, the top 4 all took -8s. with Obai in first place now, FPL Milanista, 59 points this week. 3 to play, 2,437. I'm now in second, 44 minus 8, 2,430 with 3 to play. Again, hopefully James at right wing back. Mason Mount needs to put his scoring boots back on, and Timo Werner, well, he needs to stop being Timo Werner, doesn't he?
Tomorrow might go well for you, but there is obviously the sideways move to Gabriel Jesus might be beckoning.
Oh, God, no, don't, please, God. 10-play FC is in third, Tiger Rattigan, 65 points. Very good score, 3 to play, 2,420. Then we've got Brad, who's been hanging around there all season, Pfizer Chiefs, 54 points, 3 to play, 2,407, again with a minus 8. Then very quickly, we've got Jack B with Ticking Time Bomb, T in his Tesco bag, Tom Robinson, R&D11, Shubrog Dasgupta. Oh, God, have I got to say this? I've been listening to Gabe pronouncing this all season. Los Paulos Hermanos. Luciano Luca Rosso in 8th. Mohamed Salisu, that's a new one. I don't think we've had Mohamed Salisu in the top 10 recently. Tim Brown and Championista United, Robert Bob, in 10th with 2,377 points. So there we go. That's the mini league. I don't take a prize. I've already said I don't. So at the moment, it's Obai, Tiger, and Brad in the prizes. So
have you seen as well? Obviously, I know first place is the jersey from a Shirt Loot Box, and second place is the book by Matt Willen, FPL Obsessed. I don't know if you noticed, he just released his second edition of the book, and it's also on Audible, which might make it the first ever FPL book on audio only format. So that's the first as well, I think. So we'll see if he can get us the second edition or the Audible version, depending on whatever second place prefers. And we have the premium fixed membership for third place.
Yeah, I think that's so it'd be good. It'd be good to see how it ends up. I think it's going to get. It's still quite tight, isn't it? Really, there's only one. I think even 10th is in with a shout of sneaking into the top 3. So yeah, if you look at that tight from my perspective, so I think it's still very, very tight. And I'll have to look. I'd be very interested to know who's going to unload the chips in this top 10, because I haven't got any. So it'd be very interesting to see what happens.
No, I think it's
it might be all bullshit that I was going to say I was going to give the prize away because I might finish in 10th anyway.
Yeah, or you might just decide to go all evil overlord and get yourself a shirt for number 1 or something. Let's see.
I'm already evil overlord, mate. There's no need to. I don't need to do it specially. But anyway, there we go. Okay, so shall we move on?
Let's go to the philosophy.
And let's go to the philosophy, which is the bit of the game of the show that I miss the most, in the fact that I still have absolutely no idea what on earth Gabe is on about. So, Gabe, FPL's philosophy of the week. Here's the guy sat on the toilet as usual.
As usual, he hasn't moved. He's probably the smartest one in the room, I gotta say. So the philosophy of the week comes to us from Carl Jung. I believe he's a Swiss psychiatrist. And he says, "Who looks outside dreams, who looks inside wakes." And what struck me about this quote specifically for this game week is, as the season is coming to a close, right? I'm kind of looking back and analyzing my decisions and my teams, and I'm looking at like what other people have done with their season, and I think by looking inside, by looking at our own process, we can kind of like wake up and then supersede our expectations. But we have to look inside to look for those answers. When we're looking externally, we might be looking at where we want to go, but in the end, those are just dreams.
Like number 1.
Maybe in your case, yeah.
What was the closest you got?
You asshole! Fancy putting this on this week when I dropped from 25 to 73 mid-game. Where you put this on?
I think you'll notice.
Were you behind? So go on. Yeah, how many points were you behind, Mariner, from first?
Oh God, now 60
was it like
now? I think.
But was it like 40 points or something?
How close were you?
Yeah, 60.
But how close were you before when you were?
40, 41 or 43. 41.
See, I think you'll notice a theme in like some of the philosophies and stuff. They're getting a little bit dark. We'll see later when we get to the Rumi pick.
Well, look, it's how it goes, isn't it? I think there's a question about how I'm going to play for the rest of the season later on, so I suppose we can bring that up. But yeah, who looks outside dreams? Well, I did. I dared to dream, but I probably pushed it too hard. But anyway, there we go. That's life. Shall we have a look at fixture difficulties? But particularly, I've put because I'm back, when I'm back, the numbers start to come back, boys. So, you've got to bear with us a bit, lads. But I know you I think most of the haulers quite enjoy this because I've put the variances up again, which finally gives us a chance to see how teams are doing now compared to what they've been doing over the course of the season. And there's some quite interesting numbers in this, actually. So let's have a look. So we've got them on the screen for the benefit of the podcasters. So, all right. So fixture difficulty as of game week 35. Remember, it's ranked 0 to 7 as per it fits in Ben Crellin's spreadsheet. I think we'll have something from Ben later on as well. So anyway, who's top attack-wise at home? Well, it's Liverpool at 0.5, Spurs 1.3, Manchester City at 1.8. And Liverpool and Manchester City are both slightly on the wane with respect to numbers that we look at anyway, things like shots in the box, big chances, XG, etc. Liverpool have dropped, so 0.3 variance, so slightly down. Manchester City a little bit further. Spurs in second are improving despite what we've had in the last couple of weeks. At the bottom, Leicester 20th now for a home attack. Norwich 19th. Well, they've been there all season. Brighton 18th with 4.4. So 4.9 Leicester, 4.5 Norwich, 4.4 Brighton. Form-wise for attack at home, we've got Spurs and Southampton on the benefit side, going the right way. And getting worse, Palace, thank you, Mateta, 1.7, Leicester 1.6, and Chelsea. Look at Chelsea's home form and home fixture difficulty, mid-table. Very interesting. What are you seeing, guys? On the attack first of all, anything you've spotted or anything which really jumps out?
Well, I think the first thing I'm seeing is that players from teams that we want recently, like Chelsea, where we're looking at Chelsea players for their double in 34 when they had their double, but also in 36 when they double. And Palace have the double in 37, have a good fixture in 36. It's just such a shame that even Leicester, right? It's just such a shame that their variance is that they're such on the decline from an attack perspective, because we want these players.
Yeah, it just looks to me, it just polarizes again that you just end up with no matter what you talk about, you just end up with the same teams. Chelsea perhaps accepted really there. Just the same old. We've got Arsenal. Arsenal are in the conversation every week because Neema's on the show, of course.
Now you're back. The evil laugh has returned. I know. Oh god. No, I'm on mute just in case. I don't know how sensitive the mic I'm using this week.
Oh, that's all right. It's fine.
I've got, like,
we know how
background.
Neema likes to breathe heavily. Neema likes his heavy breathing. So
I'm like, if I mute myself in between.
Yeah.
No, I think Leicester is the one that screams out the most to me. Obviously, a lot of us jumped early on them when they had the earlier double game week, and they have some great fixtures. But with the kind of preference for the Europa Conference coming up, and I'm just not convinced. I remember when they played Arsenal, they rotated like 7 of the first 11. And that was before they got this far in the competition. I'm in the scenario now where I sold Barnes to get my Chelsea mid, for instance. I think people who still have Barnes or Maddison, I wouldn't even be opposed to still selling them now, even this week, to get to like a City midfielder. So I think that those days are long gone. Like the idea that, like, I was looking at free hit drafts for both 36 and 37, and Leicester was not a single Leicester player made it for me, just because you're going to get a single game weaker, is my opinion here. And that's even before you account for how bad the attacking FDR at home is. And they have 2 home fixtures in 36, but if they're only going to play one of them, and we're saying they're the worst in the league currently on home attack, I just don't see any appeal in them. So that's interesting. I think something that interests me here is Man United. I think it is a bit of an academic point, though, in the sense that once the game tomorrow is over, they only have 3 fixtures left this season.
Yeah.
They're the only team to blank in 37. They play Brentford at home. It's an okay fixture, despite Brentford's upturn, I think. With that in mind, I'm probably going to be selling Ronaldo as a cash cow to get to a captain for Game Week 35, but we'll come to our transfer plans later. Man City here, this scares me. I have 0 City players. I think a lot of people will have double City defense, especially bench boosters in 36 or people who wildcarded in 34. I think some way that a free hitter like me in 36 might stand out, seeing this FDR, is I could try and get onto the double City attack with the third one being a defender. So maybe that's how I differentiate myself. Bench boosters can't afford 2 Man City attackers. But I think what it tells us is that you probably want to try and get to 3 City players, whatever chip you're using, or whether you're chipless in 36. I think we all probably already have triple Liverpool, which are top. Really that then leaves City as the next triple up, in my opinion, for double game with 36, especially with that announcement. I think that's the big takeaway for me.
Yeah, I mean, some interesting numbers. Obviously, this is just the home side of things, but if we look at defence, and this is where it becomes even more interesting, at the top, Liverpool 1.6. Well, Liverpool, you know what I've been saying about Liverpool at the start of the season. I was saying their defence just really wasn't there. And slowly but surely, to be fair to them, and with the Van Dijk factor, they're back now. They're as good as anybody now, ranked number 1, and they've been like this for a while. Look who's in second, Newcastle at home, 1.7. Who are they playing this week? Of course, Liverpool. Newcastle's variance is massive improvement, minus 2.4, really incredible. There is maybe a caveat. Spurs 1.9 in third. Of course, we all had Doherty, he got injured, and now what? They're still decent with defensively. Everton, lowly Everton, who might be going down, still at home, have a defensive fixture difficulty 4th best and improving. Very, very. This is super interesting for me. Now at the bottom end, Norwich 5.5. Hello, Aston Villa. Getting worse. Leeds 5. Hello, Manchester City. And Wolves 4.7, then Southampton 4.2. This is super interesting. I mean, I've mentioned some of the variances, but just to be on this, just to remind you, so obviously Newcastle, most form, from where they were this season, amazing. Leicester have improved as well at home defensively. Watford have even improved at home, but they're still crap. And on the other side of it, we've basically got Norwich, Wolves, and Palace, who are all falling off. Palace at Selhurst are now starting to fall off. Maybe they're on Gabe's Beach somewhere. Maybe they're on Camber Sands, which isn't too far away from there. Well, it is quite away from there, but it's the nearest beach I could think to in South London, anyway. Well, there we go. What do you think, Gabe? Where do you come from with this defensive fixture difficulty?
I mean, we've seen Newcastle at home. They've definitely turned it around at home, but I didn't realize how much, like, for them to go up to second here. I think that's really interesting, and I think definitely puts a question mark on the idea of Salah captain away, right? And then at Everton I don't think they have points away since October or something, some crazy thing like that. So that I know about Everton's home and away split, and we'll compare this 2.1 FDR home versus away in the next slide momentarily here. But again, that's another fixture. That's one thing about the matchups this game week is that a lot of the players. I think I only have one player with a home fixture. Like all of the good players are away this week. I don't know if you've noticed, right? So a lot of these are like, we're looking at Everton. Everton are good home, and they're who's playing Everton again? I think it's
Chelsea,
right? So we were talking about before the show, Mariner, we were talking about City assets, and like, do we really want to keep City assets? Everton seems like a good fixture, but their home defensive form is actually quite good. So is that a good
Chelsea
matchup for?
assets, you mean,
This is
sorry.
how ironic it
Sorry,
is.
yeah,
People are
yeah.
scrambling. People are scrambling to bring Mason Holgate in, for crying out loud.
Let's
I
not
already
look at
own that.
Mason
I already
Holgate.
own him.
I feel like you were just like after that time, Hibbo had him the whole of last year. I think you've
This is
been
not
corrupted by him.
absolute ode to Hibbo bringing Mason Holgate into my team. I can confirm that one.
Just
But yeah,
blame
it's very
him for it.
interesting, isn't it? I mean, we'll come back to Newcastle and everyone. I want to keep going because we can come back to these when we talk about the actual matchups this week. I think it's the most important. But yeah, it's certainly very, very interesting that Newcastle have really jumped up. Now, attack away, look, Chelsea are very good. So what's going on? What is going on? Chelsea away are actually better. So let's see what that does to the matchup. And they're improving. So it just seems to be at home, Chelsea don't seem to be doing what they're doing. I mean, could it be down to the lack of bums on seats down at Chelsea? I know there's a lot of empty seats down there these days. Manchester City 0.9, Liverpool 1.9, 1, 2, 3. At the bottom, Everton 5.7. So Everton's attack away is just shocking. So, you know, no matter how many times I look at our wonderful friend Richarlie Troll, who is on 9 yellows, by the way, and is as mad as a box of frogs, and is guaranteed to get another yellow, isn't he?
Yeah, I was looking into that, but I think they've passed the threshold. I think he might be 15 now, potentially.
Is it? So maybe he's all right. Maybe he'll just get a red.
That's the thing. He's more likely to just get straight red.
He's crackers.
Did you see his challenges? He definitely could have got a red against Liverpool.
The bloke's on.
I think he's very unlikable. A lot of people despise him.
He's a couple of dollars short of a full wallet.
He's done me well. He's done me well, to be honest.
But you could just see what happens, right? You bring him in for 37, 36, 37. Second game in 36, red card, 3-game ban.
I don't know. So what worries
I've had that
me
experience with him.
I was going to say, what worries me here is I think them being bottom for away games is not ideal because they've got Leicester away and Watford away in their double in 36. So this does not seem very reassuring. But equally, like the alternative kind of strikers in 36 for the double are not great. So like Norwich with Pookie, right? He's got West Ham home, Leicester away. They're not doing so well themselves. Weghorst, you know, his numbers, his XGI are better since the new manager. Of course, he does nothing while I own him, taking one shot every 5 games. And as soon as I sell him, he's taking like 3 shots a game. But again, I think it's like if you own him, you maybe keep. Otherwise, I don't see why you'd be buying any of these assets. I wouldn't be going near Pookie, Weghorst, Dennis, King. Watford themselves, interestingly here, they're mid-table, right, for attack away. So I'm just trying to have a look to see who Watford's. So they've got Everton at home in the double, and then they've got Palace away. So maybe you could get Dennis or like Pedro on a bench boost, but there's no really appealing strikers, is there, for the double in 36? They're all pretty trash, I think. What do you think then about? So just kind of the only other thing that screams out to me here is obviously Brentford. I feel like if they had a double game week, I think a lot of people would be moving towards Ivan Toney, and I do wonder if maybe are we again like banking on the doubles? Are we just chasing the kind of the upside of the doubles too much? And is there anyone out there, either of you maybe, that could be tempted by a one game from Toney as opposed to like a double from Pookie or Weghorst or Richardson?
I don't hate it. I don't hate it at all.
He plays Southampton at home in the 36 fixture. We've seen if there was ever a team that looks like they might be on the beach, it's probably Southampton right now. So I do think perhaps Toney is a cheeky differential for those who don't want to go to 11 double game weekers in 36.
There is that. I mean, look, there's obviously Villa. So, I mean, people are going to be looking to try and work players like from Villa into the teams over the next, probably starting this week. People are obviously looking at bringing Manchester City players in now. We know the doubles there. I think they're probably, so I'm more likely to take money out of the forward area than keep it in, if I'm honest with you. Nketiah's obviously, if he keeps his place, and everything I listen to, it seems like he's doing really well. It's a small. I was listening to Ross Raptor on his YouTube show earlier on. And he was saying how good his numbers are. Yet, of course, it's a relatively small sample size for Nketiah. But I really like the look of him. I think he looks quite a good option. And of course, Arsenal's fixtures towards it, and we'll look at the fixture difficulties, but Arsenal's fixture difficulties till the end of the season are pretty good. So
yeah, I think so. I think the only tough game, really, in my opinion, is that Spurs game. But even then, I think that will be a high-scoring match for both sides.
So he's sort of like on my radar, as is probably Woodworkio, Ollie Watkins.
He's firmly on my radar for this week as a Ronaldo replacement potentially.
Yeah. Although Gabe's probably cast the spell on him anyway, but we'll see that later on. I don't want to spoil what Gabe's doing later.
I'm trying to fuck some shit up.
He's really going for this.
I'm going for it. We'll get to that. We'll get to it.
He's trying his best to wipe him out, anyway, but there we go.
So how about the away defence, by the way? Southampton here, rock bottom for that Tony punt at home. No, but real talk. Anyone here who's listening, please don't use a precious one of your potentially 3 or 4 remaining transfers on a Brentford striker with nothing to play for. I definitely think you should be getting your third Liverpool asset, as many City players as you can, maybe a Villa player. I don't think there's enough upside in Tony to be.
Don't buy Tony.
Don't buy Tony. If you have him, maybe keep him, but don't buy him. That's for
Definitely not. Don't do it. Just don't do it. Just leave me to climb the ranks quietly out of the way. Yeah, exactly.
Ignore the metric. He's just
just ignore everything we've said. So away from home then, defensively wise, Manchester City still top. And I agree with you, Nima. You've said a lot of people are going to be on double City defence. I'd be surprised if I aren't on double City defence by the time we get to 36. Because I think that just the injuries wise is just really causing them so much trouble. It's removing a bit of the rotation risks away at this moment in time. So, for example, this week, thankfully, Cancelo was suspended, wasn't he? So there we go. That's a shoe in.
Looks like he's out for the season as well, potentially. So there's definitely we saw Stones played there, didn't he? And then he went off injured right back. So it's like Laporte looks pretty nailed if Stones has injured himself.
Well, this just sums it up because again, is Walker back though?
That's the thing. There was rumours he could be out for the season, so I don't know.
There was because I mentioned Zinchenko at the Singapore meetup. Shout out to all the Singapore lads, by the way, who I met last week. It was great to finally have a meetup because they've removed all the restrictions here now. I was sat there just drinking my Heineken Zero, New Mariner. Boring. Again, got an option really, but anyway, there we go. Hashtag ad. And
they better send you a crate.
And the first one, that's where we'll get sponsored by Heineken Zero going forward, or non-alcoholic gin, which is the other thing I'm on. And I mentioned Zinchenko. I was talking about Zinchenko. I was saying he could be a great shout, and book at me.
You must have had a whole room laughing at you.
And everybody else who was at the thing that didn't bring him in either. So nobody listened to me anyway. God. Right, anyway, let's get back to this. Enough of these stories. Manchester City 1, top, improving. Chelsea 2nd for defensive, away from home, reminder. 1.9, still okay. Chelsea, Crystal Palace now have improved away from home, but not at home. So everything's going a bit beachy-fied, Gabe, really. And we've got Villa, whose defensive numbers are not too bad. So that's interesting. Villa's defensive numbers don't look too bad. And Liverpool's defensive numbers are pretty good away from home as well. Southampton at the bottom, Norwich, Everton, Leeds. 6.3, 6.1, 5.5, 5.3, all getting worse. So the teams at the bottom are getting worse. The teams at the top seem to be improving. It's just pulling away. So there we go. Who's improving? Well, good God, Arsenal. This has been such a long time since I've been on this show, Nima. Arsenal are improving.
Is this away from home defensively, right?
Yes.
So you're saying that I should play Ramsdale away at West Ham?
I'm saying nothing, mate. I'm just saying what these numbers say. That's it. You make your own decisions. You know how it works here. We don't spoon feed on net that hole. Anyway, so yeah, there we go. So that's what we've got. Should we have a look at the schedule, Nima? I think you've already spoken about this a little bit, but we've got the. I managed to swipe the Ben Krellin schedule. So credit to Ben and to who's in partnership with Fantasy Football Hub. But we've got the schedule on the screen. So do you want to just walk us through this? Anything you know? Obviously, we know about the City game now.
Yeah, I think this is ideal, actually showing the midweek ties as well. So you can see, obviously, tomorrow Chelsea versus United before Chelsea then have Everton on Saturday. It's a very quick turnaround. We then have Leicester playing Roma either side of the Spurs game, which I think that makes it even more shocking that at the moment, in the top 5 most sold players, Kane is second with 61,000 sales, Son is fifth with 46,000 sales, just before Tottenham play themselves into form. Then you've got, in between the kind of Newcastle game, there is a Villarreal for Liverpool. They've obviously had the first tie tonight, but I think what's terrifying is that the next tie, I believe, is on Tuesday. So it's only like a couple of days after this Newcastle game. Salah's now played a full 90. Diaz and Mane were subbed earlier in the second half. He played the full thing. So that's concerning. And then West Ham here, obviously, they have their Europa League tie against Frankfurt. Either side, the Arsenal tie. So I think that's a good starting point, just looking at those European semi-finals there. From that, I think what I would conclude is that Man City, for one, they had a very high-intensity game against Madrid. And I'd be quite concerned to be like, even though that Leeds fixture is exciting, I'd be quite concerned to go in for like KDB. I have no doubt that he probably does start, but the concept that he could come off at 60 or 65 minutes if they're cruising, that does worry me a bit. So I think people here who are like selling Son to get to KDB this week, when Son is about to play a very tired Leicester who are going to rotate, I feel like you're almost jumping 1 week too early. So my view is that the Spurs boys, I'm actually going to bring one in to potentially captain this week. And the City attacker anyway, I think that can wait till 36 based on what we're seeing here. Now fast forwarding to kind of game week, just on Arsenal as well. If Saka is past fit, I think he could run riot against that West Ham team as well, who are going to be also knackered and rotating like hell. I think on the weekend, right, they benched, I think it was Antonio, Bowen and Rice in the Premier League. So hopefully that's signs of things to come against Arsenal. And we really need those points. If Chelsea win against United tomorrow and Arsenal beat West Ham, we will be guaranteed a return into Europe. So I'd be very happy to start my Sunday knowing that we're back in Europe after a year out. Going into double game week 36 then. So I think this is a tough one. I think he's very chip dependent, team dependent. Obviously, you might hear team dependent a lot on this pod. But the reason for that is I think people who are kind of bench boosting with having wildcarded recently or without a wildcard attached, they're going to struggle because they're probably going to be prioritizing a bench of something like, say, Foster in goal, one of Dennis or Joao Pedro in attack. They're potentially going to have like a Matty Cash from Villa on their bench for that double on the bench boost. And then finally, there's a few more kind of average players. They might be double game week, like a kind of, Dewsbury Hall or a Gordon. So I'm not convinced there is that much upside, but they could get a lot of points from that. I think those who don't have a chip, the double game week has fallen perfectly for them. I don't know if you agree, Gabriel, but for my view is if the City had fallen into 37, they would have had to potentially like rush into loads of City players by 37 and, not go with them right now for the next 2 weeks when they're challenging for the title and they have decent games, as we'll see in the FDRs. With it in 36 and Leeds now the game, I think if you don't have City players and you don't have any chips, they're the number one priority this week, even ahead of that Spurs player that I was talking about. So for people without a chip, I'd be looking to get into like your second City defender or your first City defender or your first City attacker this week as a transfer with this in mind. I think in terms of teams for 36, just from this, what I see, I think the general template will be triple Liverpool, triple City. That's already 6 players. Saka, he's the 7th player. I don't really like the Leicester boys because of the rotation again. So they obviously, you can see they have the Roma tie before Everton and Norwich. Then they have Watford and Chelsea in another double. So there's definitely going to be a lot of rotation in and amongst that, I think. Who's going to actually play those doubles? So I'm not really keen on those Leicester boys. So they could be your 8th player in 36. if you already have a Maddison, but if you've got Barnes, I would be looking to move him on. From there, I'm trying to think, if you didn't get them, you're still on 7. Now you maybe have a Pookie, so you need at least one striker. So you've either got a Pookie or a Weghorst or like a Dennis looking somewhere there. So that's like player 8. You might have a Richarlison, that could be player 9. You might have a Coutinho or a Watkins, player 10. So it's like, really, it's kind of like 7 players, which are Saka, triple Liverpool, triple City, and then your final 4 are like 1 Villa, 1 Everton, 1 Leicester, 1 Watford, maybe. I like, you could keep Kane. There's nothing wrong with keeping Kane as a striker. I think one thing I will say is, if you're going to take a huge hit, like a -8, to turn a Kane into like a KDB in 36, in any given week, when you sell a premium player from an OK team for a hit, there's a risk, right? But in a double game week, that risk is compounded, I think, because you don't just have the chance of Kane screwing you in one fixture, you've got 2 of them. So if you're selling, like, let's say a Salah, if you sell a Salah who's got a double game week, that's 2 games where he could just absolutely destroy you. So I think going against the template and selling like a Salah to get to a KDB, that's a bit much. And if I was in a situation where I owned Kane as a non-free hitter in 36, I'd maybe just try to get Foden and keep Kane. I wouldn't be ripping up my team, essentially, is what I'm saying, because you've got 2 transfers between now and 36. How are you going to get Kane to KDB in that move? So I think, again, it is very chip dependent, but the key cogs of who you want, they're very clear. Cheeky punt for me, Arsenal defense, you said, was getting better away from home. They do obviously have Tottenham as well they're facing, and Leeds as well in 36. My view there is that Tavares is going to be nailed to play. He's like 4.3 million. I don't hate it. I think he's a nice punt on a bench boost, for instance, at that price, if it enables more. The reason I say this is that there was talks of him not playing, but with the return of Tomiyasu getting minutes off the bench last game, we saw earlier this year when Tomiyasu played, he stays back, and it allows Nuno Tavares to play almost like a winger and not have to defend as much.
He probably needs to, because he can't defend.
Yeah, exactly. But he was so, I think what people are quick to forget is he was so good in that role that he actually kept a fit Tierney out of the team for a number of weeks. So I think when Cedric plays right back, it does not bode well for Tavares. But with Tomiyasu back, Tavares is an interesting punt from my perspective. Is there anyone else you see here?
Sorry, Nima, can I just jump in? You mentioned City. You mentioned City. Because I'm in that situation right now where you've got. I've only got 1. I've got Cancelo, and I need to bring more in. But you say you want to bring a second one in. I have no free hit. You say you want to bring a second one in. Who would we bring in?
So I think if I had a Chelsea defender. This is, again, looking at the ties here that they have with the kind of the Liverpool fixture in the FA Cup final sitting straight after that Leeds game, 2-3 days after. I don't think any of the first choice Chelsea players, like say your Jameses, your Havertzes, your Mounts, they're going to get that game.
I can't sell him. I've only just brought him in.
Yeah, but you bring them in for the captaincy haul against United tomorrow, right? And then once they get their haul, you sell them. So I think I would very happily in 36 move on like a James or a Alonso straight onto a Laporte. I would have no problem with that, because I just don't think that one game against Wolves is enough for me. They're not going to play Leeds. They're going to be knackered against Liverpool on the 14th, and then on the 17th they've got their next game. So I'd be very happy selling the Chelsea players, and I think again you might have 1 Chelsea player in 36 as the template. Like some people might have a Mount or an Alonso. You might keep them, but I'd very happily rather go for the City player personally. I think I think that's an easy way to move there. So Havertz to a Foden, James or Alonso or Thiago Silva to a Laporte. I think those are all very viable moves. You could do them this week, or you said that actually the numbers for Chelsea away look great. So maybe you keep them against Everton away, and then you make that move in 36.
That's where I would be going. I don't think I could sell him before Everton, even Everton away. We'll come to that. We'll come to fixture difficulty in a second. But yeah, I don't think I could sell him before that. And you get to 36, and then you look at the double, and you say, I can see what you're saying. I completely agree with you. Actually, I think I certainly will only own 1 Chelsea by 36. I'm almost certain.
Yeah, I think I've got 2 at the moment. I've got James and Havertz. Because I'm free hitting in 36, I'm not like doing much with that. This week I may sell Havertz to Coutinho.
Gabe,
like
where
that
are you?
Norwich fixture.
Gabe, where are you on this Chelsea and City sort of conundrum? Where would you sit on this?
With regards to City, I would say it's not too early to invest in KDB because of the matchup. That Leeds matchup, Leeds are particularly vulnerable to the kind of attacking midfielder, the deep lying run. Those players tend to haul against Leeds. I know in their last match, I think KDB got a brace against Leeds. I think it was his first full 90 after coming back. I think he didn't start at the beginning of the season. Then he played a few minutes for a couple of games. Then he came back against Leeds and got a brace. So I could see a 60-minute brace from De Bruyne in that match, and I wouldn't be turned off by him. But just on eye test, I'm not liking what I see from Foden. I don't think Foden is an investment in my opinion. I think you could do much better elsewhere. And regarding Chelsea, I think Chelsea it's tricky because a lot of us, I mean, this is my situation. I went in early on Chelsea with 36 in mind, just thinking that, you hold all the way through and I'd be plugging gaps elsewhere. And now I'm looking at my team, if I stick to my plan, then I can get basically all double game week players for 36, and I have a bench boost, so it works out. But then I'm looking at my team, and I don't like the looks of the double Chelsea defense and Werner, and I want to go like double Chelsea defense to double City defense. But then is there not enough delta in terms of the upside of those moves? Is there not enough? Is there enough delta to make that move? I really don't know at this point. I want to say that if that's the conundrum, I'll probably stick with a Chelsea double defense just so I can plug gaps elsewhere and get to my double game week players.
If you can gain more somewhere else potentially than what you would gain with those transfers,
right. That is one way of looking at it. The other way to look at it is that because you've got two of them, you could offload one now for a Laporte or someone like that, and then the delta, the longer time you've got for the delta to appear, right? That's the other way of looking at it. Because the later you leave the movement, the later you leave the move, the less difference you're going to potentially gain out. You're going to get out of it, right? That's one reason why I went for the hits last week rather than phasing it, almost like phasing it in sort of thing.
So we're looking at, like, say, Thiago Silva or a Chelsea player against Everton, right? Where we're looking for 35 versus Laporte against Leeds. It's that's a wash for me. That's a complete sideways transfer.
I see like a 5-1. I saw the comment from
in
Mark
isolation.
as well.
I agree, Gabe. Sorry, if you look in isolation, I completely agree with you, but I'm not. I'm looking at it over the next.
As in, you're setting up for the next.
What I mean is, like, I don't think doing that this week gives any real advantage. So when you're doing it early doesn't. Like, those two matchups, like they could both end up with clean sheets. I think they're too close to call. So making that transfer for 35, I don't think would give you that kind of longevity that would give the advantage because the matchups are so similar.
I think having 2 free transfers in your situation potentially is much more powerful by 36. I think a lot of bench boosters teams I've seen, they look okay for this week, and the moves they can make are very sideways, like you're saying. It's like I've seen people talking about things like Havertz or Mount to Coutinho as one transfer, or James or Thiago to Laporte as one transfer. And I think I do agree with you actually there, Gabe, that perhaps you'd be far better off with 2 moves in 36 and just fine-tuning that bench boost once you know a lot more. Because you make that move now, imagine Laporte then, like, obviously it's hypothetical, imagine he gets injured in 35 and then you've still only got 1 transfer in 36 for the bench boost. It's like, was there even enough upside to make that move now to then not have more power when it comes to your bench boost week?
Right.
I don't know.
Right.
Yeah, but I mean, you can't just say, well, there might be an injury. It could be an injury to anyone. But yeah, I know what you're saying. I can see what you're saying.
There could be
you've got 2 transfers.
Champions League as well, right? So you're buying these players 2 games before you ideally want them. And these are high-intensity games with Madrid, as we saw midweek. So that would put me off a bit.
Yeah, the Europa, the Champions League certainly is a problem for
now,
sure.
De Bruyne, as Gabe says, that's a different kettle of fish. I totally agree on the late running midfielder into the box being a weakness of Leeds, and that their coach has just said that he's going to attack at City. He's like, we're going to go all guns blazing. So when I hear that, I'm a bit like, oh, damn, like, okay, they're really going to go for it. So that means City are probably going to demolish them. But they might then get a goal. So then it's like you've made that move and you don't even get the clean sheet potential.
Jesse Marsh, he might not be telling the truth. I'm just going to...
He's also been playing like mad. Yeah, I was thinking to myself, like, he's talking about going out all guns blazing against City. I saw how they played against Palace. Like, that did not look like all guns blazing, and that was Palace.
What, they only have one gun. They have one gun. What are you going to go with all guns blazing? All gun blazing. You got Hafinha, and that's it.
Yeah, they
just got the one gun.
Greenwood. Yeah, they sub on Sam Greenwood as like a gung ho, and a Gelhardt still like rotting on the bench.
And that gun may well be leaving my team this week as well. Yeah, there we go.
Is there anything here that you would say? So for 37, obviously it's a smaller double game week than people anticipated before the City move, but I don't think that necessarily means it's not a good free hit week. So I think those who were set on bench boost 36 and still have a free hit, 37 is still a great option to do it. At that point, you might say actually like Everton, Palace, Villa, these aren't like ideal teams to free hit into. But equally, the single game week teams, like say Tottenham against Burnley, City have a decent game that week as well. I think against West Ham again, who will be knackered. There are good fixtures there. Arsenal have Newcastle. Who else have we got? Chelsea have is it Leicester? Yeah, so there's some decent single game weeks there as well still, I think, to target on that free hit. And I wouldn't be worrying that like, oh, because City isn't there, it's not worth it. I think it's fine. Now, some people might free hit 38, but I don't think you need to, because if you look at all the big teams that we have the assets from already, look at their home fixtures in 38. Arsenal at home fixtures against Everton, right? Chelsea are at home against Watford. City are at home against Aston Villa. Liverpool at home against Wolves.
It takes care of itself.
Away at Norwich, yeah. That team
38 just takes care of itself. In fact, quite frankly, you could delete that column.
Yeah, so that's what I'm getting at. So I think every move you make now...
About.
Exactly. So every move you make now, you've basically got to move for 35, 36, 37. So you have 3 free transfers. If you're free hitting in one of them, you have 2 free transfers. This season is nearly up. You've got 50% of your decisions left to make, or like that's it. There's like 2 free moves.
Yeah, a few more if you've got a free hit.
Each transfer is 1/3 or half your moves left.
One thing that I will mention for 37, what I do like and maybe under the radar is Palace defense. Both matches are away, and we just saw in the FDR how much better Palace are away defensively than they were earlier on in the season. They're improving. I think they were number 3 or number 4 in the FDR, and both those matches are away. And you have the likes of Anderson, Gay, and Nathaniel Klein kind of popping up at 4.3 million. Could be a kind of a cheap. Some cheap enablers there, and I would definitely
there as well, right? If someone's got him in goal or free hits him into goal, or
I'd definitely be at least double Palace on a free hit in 37, double Palace defense.
I also
the
like
risk is, of course, would you be taking? Sorry, Nima, you speak.
No, I was just gonna say I also like the double Villa defense there, so like Matty Cash and Martinez in goal potentially against Crystal Palace and Burnley. I think there's really good opportunity to have really cheap assets in your defense for that double, and really then spend the money further up the field.
Yeah.
But so go on, Chris.
I mean, the only thing I was going to say is that, you talk about your Palace defence, your double Palace defence, but are you therefore then not going to have any Everton players, for example? Because, if you are going on, because Everton need to do something, right? They're in deep trouble. So the players like Gordon, who's on set pieces, for me, would be a pretty good shout, I think.
Yeah, I mean, he's a midfielder though, so he wouldn't take up one of those spots.
I know, but they're going to be taking points off each other. Gabe is what I'm.
I wouldn't be scared of Gordon.
I wouldn't worried about that. Yeah, like I'll just have him in the team as an enabler. Yeah, I think Gordon is great.
Richarlison, of course, that's the other one. The obvious one is Richarlison. I think.
Well, he's currently the most captain player in like every metric for that week.
Yeah, I know he is. I might even have to add him into our metric. I've deliberately deleted him out of it until this point.
You're gonna have to at least allow him back.
Put him in. Yeah, even I might have to add him in. He's actually been in my plans to bring in, but I don't know if I don't know if I dare bring myself to that. I could just, like I say, I could just see what's happening. We keep coming back to him, don't we? But yeah, I think that's good, neighbour. Shall we go quickly? Shall we dive
Yeah, I
back
was going to
into
say,
the
let's
here
go
and
to
now?
the FDRs. Yeah, let's
Yes.
go to the FDRs quickly for this week specifically, just what's ahead. Because as we said, the most important decisions now left. We've talked about the longer term, are basically your transfer this week. Because your transfer this week depends on, are you bench boosting in 36? Are you free hitting in 36 or 37? Are you chipless? And depending on which of those three paths you're going down, I think you got to make this move and look at this FDR for this week completely differently.
Yeah, no, absolutely. This is so. Should we have a quick look through just a few interesting ones? I mean, and look, I'm actually going to pick holes in this fixture difficulty as well, because there are, as we've always said, right? And Gabe, we've been saying this right since the start of this show. Numbers are numbers. There are things going on behind the scenes that make you question these numbers, right? Always.
Yep.
You know, so just because a number looks bad or good, not necessarily that way, because the stats, these fixture difficulties come out a certain way, and we have to look at it in the context of everything. So let's start with Arsenal, right? Arsenal's attacking fixture difficulty against West Ham is -2. That doesn't tell the full story, clearly. West Ham prioritising Europe, patched up, Dawson suspended, Nketiah, Saka, Nima, both great shouts for this
I
week.
like both of them this week. Obviously, we need to keep an eye on Saka news. I think even if he's out of this game, if you're not like kind of free hitting in 36, I would expect him to be back by the following fixtures. So I would just be holding at this point. I don't see a world in which I'd sell him. But Nketiah, he's a really exciting one. I think people who are looking to downgrade to, like, let's say you've got Ronaldo, Werner, you might want to downgrade him to an Nketiah. That allows you to get a De Bruyne or a Son. That's really exciting for me, actually. And I definitely think something I've noticed is, obviously we spoke about this, Gabe, didn't we? About, are they going to show him the Faye flag so that he signs a contract? It looks like the ball is all in his court. The power is in his court. But it sounds like they've done what we didn't think they were going to do, which is they're looking to propose a new offer. Not the one they had on the table months ago, but another revised new contract offer that also comes with certain reassurances about more playtime, which starts with him now playing more like right now. So I had thought originally we would give Lacazette a 1-year extension with an option of a second year. And there was talks of us discussing that with him in the summer when we saw what was happening with incomings and outgoings. Whereas with Nketiah, that contract's already been there for months, and he's the one refusing to sign it because he wants to play more. He's now playing more. We look way better. Lacazette's been appalling. And as much as I like him as a player, you know, our team's profile is about young players building for the future. You know, I would consider him pretty nailed on at this stage. I don't it's like honestly, and he's got an 8-day rest now. So it's like, if he started, you know, that game on the Wednesday and the Saturday, he's now got an 8-day rest. I don't see a world in which he's rested now going forwards. He would have to drop a few stinkers to be dropped, I think. And some people will say, oh, but I'm bench boosting. I can't risk that in 36. I think I'd still rather get, like, you know, 1 start and a 30-minute cameo from Nketiah than some of the strikers from some of these relegation teams, if I'm frank with you.
I mean, he opens up a shed load of cash, doesn't he? Potentially to be able to pile it into a, you know, maybe upgrade someone like Rafinha to Coutinho or someone like that. You know, it really does, because we're going to come on to Villa next. And you see Villa's got a very tasty matchup against Norwich, 3.1. That's hardly surprising, given the fact Norwich are absolutely awful. The 4th worst for big chances conceded, 2.1 per 90, 1.5 expected goals against in the last few games. Obviously, Villa double in 36 and 37. The fixture difficulty for the longer range doesn't necessarily tell the story. It maybe tells another story that actually this is the best, potentially the best matchup for the Villa players during that run. But at the end of the day, they're double game weekers, and we know how many times have we seen it. There are some good options there. Watkins against Coutinho. This is the conversation I would be.
It's a big one. Is that what you're on as well? So I think we have to talk about this today, because I am going to have one of the two of them by the end of this.
It's a big conversation.
Yeah.
If I just went through just some numbers just to set the scene for this, and then we can have a bit of a to and fro. Watkins, I think this is over the last 10 game weeks. 6 big chances. Coutinho 2. Watkins 9 shots on target against 9. 19 shots in the box against 11 for Watkins. Goal involvement 39 against 30. So over the course of the season, and again, thanks to Ross Raptor for pointing this out when I watched his stuff earlier on, so credit to him, Coutinho was slightly above Watkins with respect to his numbers. Now it's swapped. Now it looks like Watkins looks to have the slightly better numbers than Coutinho from that side of things. So, yeah, I mean, that's a big discussion. Obviously, if you've got Nketiah, then you've got a better chance of getting to a Watkins because you've probably already got quite a solid looking midfield. I would say most people are going to struggle to find a way to get into him, aren't they? Unless you're going to offload somebody like a Rafinha, right? So where would you come? I think Watkins is an easier fit for many teams because there aren't many options up front.
I agree. I think what worries me about Coutinho is he's going to play quite a lot of games with these kind of, obviously you got Norwich, but then you got the 4 matches in a row after that. And it makes me kind of worry, like, will he potentially be rested for one of the 2 games in 37? He's also coming out quite high on the captaincy for all the metrics in 37. It's basically him versus Richarlison. They're like the 2 key players for 37. If I buy Coutinho this week, I have all the faith that he'll play against Norwich, of course. And then I'll free hit, and I probably actually wouldn't include any Villa players for that 36 double. So one thing I would say is that if you're buying him and you have no chips, you're buying Villa players for the appeal of the double-double. And if you think he's going to be benched in one of the games in 37, it's not a double-double anymore. And suddenly he's very less appealing to me. Whereas Watkins, even just looking at recent games, he's generally a 90-minute player. And Coutinho has been getting subbed off quite frequently. There's like some 70 minutes, 80 minutes, 65 minutes. Like he gets subbed a lot more. And with more games to come, I do worry a little bit about that. And Villa have a lot of attacking players, a lot of options. Blue Nix is even saying in the chat about Leon Bailey even. So there are options there. There's, I think, Bertrand Traore still there. There are players who can play, right? And I'm worried about him. Watkins, I feel more safe with. The only thing there is it's about, I think, the structure of your team, as you say. So it's a tough one for me. Would you, at this point in time, like we saw the doubles that they have in 36, like if you were free hitting like me, I don't think I'd be going near a Villa player in that double. Would you? That's what I mean. Like, I don't really want them.
And everybody could be on 2. Non-free hitters could be on 2.
That's what I'm trying to say, and I just don't want them. Like, and you know, they've got 1 point in the league in the last 5 games. Fair play. They've played some of the toughest opponents they could. There's been like the West Hams, the Arsenals, and there's been, you know, City. I mean, they've played big games, but and the games to come are much easier. So one thing I do really like though is that I actually kind of like they've been underperforming because it means less people are targeting them. I really like that, if I'm really honest with you, because I feel like it's a little opportunity to get in as well, just for one of them. I wouldn't want to. People who are, you know, looking for a defensive asset, I actually really like Matty Cash. He's pretty much a guaranteed 90-minute man himself. I really like him. I think he could do incredible over the final stretch. I think he's my pick. Like, if I was going to pick one Villa player now and I could only pick one from now till the end of the season, I would pick Cash over both the attackers. That's my opinion. Between the 2 attackers, it's a really tough choice. I think, I prefer Watkins for the minutes. Coutinho, I think he could have another explosive haul like he did in 28. But he could also blank away.
But Ramsey's numbers for so much cheaper are still not a million miles away from Coutinho. And there's a question here from D Chin, FPL D Chin. Is Ramsey even the better option? If we've got all this doubt, and just looking at the chit chat going on in the chat, you know, everyone's saying breaking news. So let's put a few up. Let's see what people are saying. Anthony's saying Villa's fixtures in 36, 37 are more difficult than the fixture difficulty suggests. You know, IBK Max, breaking your structure to fit Villa in assets is not the best play for me. And And now,
But here's what I'm saying. I love that people are trying to cheap out and get the Ramsey over to Coutinho or avoid them altogether, because I definitely think they've got good names.
And I've been burnt by that already this season when Coutinho hauled.
I captained him, so I definitely am looking for part 2.
I think I would ask, what are we expecting from Coutinho? Like, do we know he's hauled in about 3 matches since he's joined the team, right? Do we know when he hauls, against what type of opposition, what role he'll play in any of these matches going forward? Is he going to play
whenever he plays Leeds? But the Leeds games are out the way now. When he played Leeds, they were big. They were big hauls.
They were big hauls. I mean, when he came, actually, the Leeds was one of the matches in the double, and Coutinho was playing in midfield, but quite advanced, almost as a false 9, and that's why he had so much success against Leeds. And when people brought him in for that double, I don't think people knew that Coutinho would be playing that false 9 position. But he's gone from there to central midfield, and he's kind of moved around. So you're kind of hoping he gets this false 9 position. When he doesn't get that position, then look at his returns. His returns are quite minimal.
I think the comment, by the way, about the fixtures, I think that's a very good comment. So this Norwich fixture is great. I have no doubt about that. Like, Norwich at home, they're relegated. I have no doubt about that. But Burnley away, who are fighting for their lives, doing everything they can to make sure Everton gets relegated instead, that is not a good game. Liverpool home, the second double in 36, that's not a good game. The only games that appeal to me outside of Norwich for the rest of the season are the 2 home fixtures in 37. So Palace home, Burnley, I've said, it's not an ideal game, but at least that one's at home. So I think Palace at home, Burnley at home, and that kind of takes us to Mike Halper's question. I think if you're free hitting 37, I would not be touching the Villa assets with a barge pole with a free transfer right now. I would just bring cash plus 1 attacker in maybe in 37 on a free hit, and then you skip them for the City away fixture in 38, right? So those games are not great. And I would say, one thing I would say, IBK, is I think it was you who said this, or someone said this about breaking your structure to fill in Villa assets. So I think for me, it's less so that I wouldn't be breaking my structures. They would be enabling a Kane or Son captaincy. Mm-hmm. So I would be bringing in a Villa player against Norwich so I can bring in Kane or Son and captain them. And then I would free hit them out in those fixtures I don't like against Burnley and Liverpool. And then they would still be in my team against Palace and Burnley. Mm-hmm. And so be it, I might sell them against City in 38 as my last transfer of the season. Mm. And they're at a price point where there is other assets I can easily get to from either Watkins or Coutinho as a final move of the year. So that's why I'm saying it's so team specific. For someone like me, that Norwich fixture and then free hitting them out and then having them for the next double, I need to counteract the free hitters in 37. I have no Villa players right now. Free hitters will have them. And bench boosters in 36 might also have them, but I'm just like, I need to try to kind of cover some of my bases. And this Norwich game is as good a time as any for me to get them and also have them for 37. So I'm just kind of playing for what works for my team. But for someone who's not free hitting at 36, I don't know if I'd be condoning like go for a Coutinho now, personally.
I'll just throw something in. Watkins, if you looked at, I'm just looking now at Hub predicted points, and Watkins is predicted, I think something like 27 points, so between 35 and 38. Where is he? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. He's in the top 8 or 9 players. He's the only one.
They're all up there, but it's because of the expected minutes. But it's the expected minutes for him that does it. That's the thing.
Yeah, so this is the problem I've got, you see, is I'm looking at Watkins, but I don't have my free hit. So I might gamble on the expected minutes and things like that, and particularly the Norwich game, and hopefully I get the returns early, then limp through a double game, the first double game week, in the hope of, then you've got the second double game week, So I might have to look at it that way, because I'm fairly keen on Watkins. I'm not totally keen on him, but I'm fairly keen.
I've just put his message up from IBK as well, so he has looked into it. So it is both the Leeds games and Southampton, right?
They're not played any of those, right? Yeah.
No, they're not for sure.
Okay, so general consensus is Ramsey, no, would you say?
If he enables you like a good player, I'm not against it. If it's for a bench boost, let's say you want to get Ramsey instead of Gordon or Dewsbury Hall, I think all 3 of them are like 4-pointers on a bench boost. You might fluke an extra point somewhere, like a clean sheet point or an assist. But like none of these guys are exciting. Whereas a Coutinho, he could get you a 10 to 16 pointer randomly. I know he's only done it 3 times, we're saying, but something that I look at, and you know this about me, Chris, and we did this both of us preseason with Ben Rahma, is I don't like to just look at metrics and previous record. I like to look at presses and quotes. And the week when I brought in Coutinho and captained him, that week there was an interview from Gerrard, and he said that it was the first time that Coutinho was like at his actual fitness level in years, and that he was happy to play football again, and he'd never seen him so happy. And I thought, this guy used to play with him as a player at Liverpool. He's seeing him, he's happy, he's joyful. I'm gonna fucking captain him. It was that kind of. So for me, a lot of it for me can just be based on little anecdotes, and it's again like I just think anyone who plays Norwich generally batters them. So you know, you've got to have a bounce back. Come on, like 1 point in 5 games. I know you're getting relegated, but you got to win sometime. And I think Norwich is any time is a good time.
And the numbers which our fixture difficulty looks at, you know, yes, okay, it is on things like big chances and shots in the box and XG, expected goals against, you know, big chances conceded, etc. But it doesn't. It tells a story, doesn't it? It tells that there is a story there that ultimately they are conceding far more chances in, you know, big chances potentially than other teams. So yeah, I think the Norwich game is a really fantastic matchup for Villa, actually. Now, their argument is, are they on the beach? Are they not? A lot of people seem to, again, this is a big discussion point. Some people say no. Some people say yes. Some people say don't touch them with a barge pole. Yeah, it's a really polarized conversation. We could speak about Villa for ages, Gabe, couldn't we? You wanted to bring in the conversation Villa against Leicester, didn't you?
I mean, these are the 2 teams with a lot of games remaining, right? So if we're looking at them, we're comparing them, but I think we spoke about Leicester earlier in terms of rotation. It's just there's so much uncertainty around them. You know, Vardy's getting healthy now as well, that it's hard to go in the Leicester direction at all, just because of the uncertainty.
So you would go. So on the basis of what you're saying, so what we're saying is you would go Villa over Leicester assets, even for 36. Yes.
Villa over Leicester, but that doesn't mean that I would go Villa necessarily.
No, that's
we'll
okay.
See.
That's
I think
right.
just to Anthony's comment, so they're talking about maybe Coutinho wants to kind of impress the hierarchy as well, and you know, get a contract. And I would say, Anthony, so I think he would happily want to stay with Gerrard, his old friend. I think the problem is he's not performed enough for them to want to splash the cash he will be, like the club will be demanding for the permanent signing. So unless he starts to perform now, like I don't see Villa paying that money. So he's got to perform at some point if he wants to move. And what's interesting though is, so you know, before this City double got announced, I'd been looking at FPLreview.com, and it was agreeing with me with my idea of kind of like getting Coutinho and Ronaldo. But now that double has been announced, when I look at like the suggestions it says on the free model, it's actually saying Ronaldo to Kane, Havertz to Foden. It's just skipping Coutinho outright. It's saying just get Foden, just go for it. But equally, one side, you can also pick what week you're free hitting. That's if you're free hitting 37. When I put it back to free hit 36, and then I look at the transfer suggestions, that again changes it. So I think it is very much like we can kind of debate like, are players, you know, good or not from these teams, but there's very few transfers left. And when you've got a team like Villa with so many matches to go, as we're saying, and the only other team like them, Leicester, potentially rotating like mad and focusing on a different tournament, it kind of, for me, it becomes a no-brainer to buy them. It's just when you buy them. Do you buy them now? Do you free hit them in 37? I think that's what it comes down to me. I think I can't see a world in which I'd like play 37 without a Villa play. I just can't see it. 2 home games. I'd be very happy with those. Did you want to look at... I'll put the FDRs back up, but
yeah, I wanted to just
want to go back to a few more.
I wanted to cover a couple of others. I want to dive back into Chelsea very, very quickly, because Chelsea looks like, you know, the matchup against Aston Villa against Everton away is still good, despite Everton being actually pretty tight at home. They've only conceded 0.7 big chances per 90. recently. They've only got an expected goal against of 1 per game. And they played, during that time, City. They also played Leicester, Manchester United, Wolves and Leeds for that data set. So that suggests that might be it still suggests it's a good matchup, but it would have been a better matchup. if you know what I'm saying. So that's that. We've spoke about Chelsea, but I just wanted to give that point on that. At the end of the day, it looks like Holgate's going to play, possibly, because Godfrey's still flag light. So that's all right, because I own Holgate. That's fine. But, is that going to improve them? Possibly not. Maybe won't help them. City leads, well, we've spoke about the rotation side of things, haven't we? That the Real Madrid result will not help that at all, right?
No, I don't think so. And that game was intense.
Yeah.
And they put everything into it, right?
Yeah. So that won't help, but it's a great matchup. 4.1 attack, 2.4 defense. Screams Cancelo to me. And I think, we'll look at the captaincy metric in a bit. I obviously know who's top, but, Cancelo, it shouldn't be discounted for captaincy this week, in my opinion, on the basis of that. And the fact that he is likely to play, which that's about probably one of the only City players we can maybe say that. Do you agree, Gabe?
Yeah, he has to play. They have no one else right now. No. So,
yeah, I think him and Laporte. I'd say Laporte, to be fair, as well, in his current form with the Stones injury. But yeah, both of those guys are incredible value, I think, as well.
Yeah. Now, the game I want to focus on, really, and this is a very, very interesting matchup this week, and maybe people have already spotted it if they've been scanning down, is Newcastle against Liverpool. Now, Liverpool, according to the fixture difficulty, have a negative fixture difficulty attacking against Newcastle. This is basis the last few game weeks at home. Very marginally negative. Newcastle have conceded 0.4 big chances per 90 recently. 0.7 expected goals against. Okay? There is a caveat, and this is where we start looking at these numbers and say, are they really that good? They played during that time Everton, Villa, Brighton, Wolves, and Leicester. So they haven't played a big boy like Everton perhaps did, or Everton have with respect to the Manchester City game, right? So that probably caveats it somewhat, but you cannot take away from Newcastle that they are improving. The fans are bouncing. St James's Park will be bouncing, right? And Liverpool's attacking variance has dropped, albeit still the third best. But they've got 2.75 big chances, 1.85 expected goals. We're going to see the captaincy metric in a few minutes. I think if people know how our captaincy metric works, I think they can probably guess that Salah is not top. Where are you on this, Gabe? We'll come to captaincy anyway, but let's just talk about Liverpool assets in general this week, right? Where are you with this? Do you see this matchup being as tough as it is?
No, I don't.
I don't either.
I mean, Newcastle they have done better. You mentioned the recent fixtures they've had and how they haven't been the toughest. But even I think irrespective of that, objectively they've been a lot better. But this is a Liverpool team that's just, and we were talking about this earlier, that's just they're just cranking. They're flowing. They're playing well in Europe. They're rotating well. There's no disharmony in the team. Origi's getting involved. I think that they're. And I think Newcastle has done well, but they haven't faced a team like Liverpool, and these guys are motivated. But I think there's a chance for the bigger players, for if Liverpool do get ahead, maybe by a couple of goals, for rotation after about 55, 60 minutes. They may not get the full 60 minutes. I think this match for Liverpool assets are like primed for that 59th minute sub that we all dread. So I would take, temper expectations on that front. But I would not be transferring out any Liverpool assets or anything like that.
No, that's not going to happen. But Nima, I'll bring you in on this next one. Did you hold Ronaldo?
I did, but I have a bitter story elsewhere about my minus 17-point swing. But
all right, well, look,
I was going to sell Ronaldo for Werner like you. Is that what you did?
I did. So I sold him like an idiot. And looking at Manchester United's fixture difficulty this week, or the matchup, the 1.8 positive against Brentford. Brentford are 5th worse away from home for big chances, 2.4, 1.8 expected goals against. Tough down in West London, not so tough elsewhere. I don't think I'd be moving Ronaldo on if I owned him this week.
No, I'm definitely selling him.
You're going to get this. It's going to happen. It's going to happen to you this week. You watch.
Exactly. My view was, this week he's 5% effective ownership, so he's a differential for sure for me. But so by next week, like, even if he gets 30 points, like, it's not going to tank my season.
No,
I believe in the upside of the players.
Right?
I'm doing it for a captain.
Kane?
Well, I'm 0.1 million short of Ronaldo to Kane, so I have to take a hit. So I have to take a hit. Yeah, exactly.
Sorry,
so,
that's exactly what happened to me last week, and that screwed me. That was the thing which screwed me. Honestly, it was that small
change. Yeah.
That small thing caused a complete meltdown in all my strategy. Just something.
So for me, my meltdown was I was adamant I wanted James over Alonso, and I was 0.1 million short of James. So I sold Weghorst for a -4 to Pukki to fund it, and that was a minus 17-point swing because Alonso got 10, James got 0, Weghorst got 5, Pukki got 2. You add in my -4, that's a minus 17-point swing. And luckily, Robertson saved my week, and James might still play tomorrow. But now I hear Rudiger's also been in training, so it'll be just our luck that Rudiger outscores James regardless tomorrow after all this. But it's painful. It's painful. I'm not going to lie. But this week, Ronaldo is 100% going. It's just whether it's for Kane or Watkins, and then whether the midfielder is Coutinho or Son. That's kind of where I'm at. I'm going to get one Villa player, one Spurs player, captain the Spurs player, and then that's that.
And we mentioned Spurs, and just finish off on Spurs very, very quickly. Leicester, obviously, Europe, one eye on Europe still. Despite their improving numbers, 1.2 big chances per 90 they've conceded, 1.3 expected goals. But look at the matchup; it's still positive, still very, very good. So they're clearly, so you can see the teams we're going to be homing in for the captaincy. So it looks like we've got Spurs, we've got City, we've got not so much Chelsea, maybe Villa could pop into the equation a little bit later, and of course Liverpool if we change that fixture difficulty. So we'll see that in a minute. Shall we look at the zonals very quickly? I'm just a bit mindful.
I was going to say what we did last time, and I think we're going to have to do it this time, is it's on the screen right now, so we'll timestamp it so people can kind of come back and watch it and read it in their own time. But I think at 1 hour 18, like if you see how many Twitter questions we have plus all the live chat questions,
we need to move.
I think we're just gonna, I think we're gonna have to just go straight.
That's all right.
But we've got it here on the screen. We'll timestamp it so people can come back to it.
I think the only thing I would suggest here, and the thing I want to just make a point to say, again, look at Liverpool against Newcastle. 2.8 left, 2.4 centre, 3.8 right. That plays into Salah and Trent. Okay, so if you look at that, Gabe, you always look for things like this.
And look for Villa left.
Yes, Villa left, 4.8. So
just when I was happy with Kane and Coutinho, you're tempting me back into the Watkins minutes and the zone plus Son.
And I would actually add that's a benefit for Jacob Ramsey as well, playing on the left side of central midfield.
Yeah. So it's worthwhile. I wanted to throw that in. I know we're running short for time, so we'll leave that. So I think basically, anyone who's listening to this, come back into the show. We'll timestamp this, and then use this in context with everything else we've said so far about the matchups this week. And Gabe, you know this. I have started to play with a metric to build in the zones as well. But that has not. It won't be rolled out. It might be. It's probably going to be next season before it comes out. But I've started to mess with that. Right. Anyway, this is. So all you. I'm going to say this, Gabe. All you Ollie Watkins buyers, beware, because. Yeah, Neighbours just disappeared. He's just vanished.
I'm going to go in and out. Check the private chat.
Ollie Watkins appeared on the screen and Nima just vanished. So that's
Nima's taking care of some kind of administrative duties in the back, so just he'll be in and out here. But the Rumi pick of the week.
Come on.
Here we go. Is indeed Woodworkio himself. It is Ollie Watkins, 7.4 million. A rare home fixture for most of our assets, and that's one of the appeals of him. They play Norwich, and the quote is, and I'll explain why this is appropriate in a second. But the quote is, "The cure for the pain is in the pain." And I think if you've owned Ollie Watkins, you probably understand this quote. But in addition to this, so here's my transfers this week. What I did do was Bruno to Kevin De Bruyne, and I wanted to do Saint Maximin to Ollie Watkins, and I'm 0.1 short of that move. So the Rumi picks have been absolute garbage for the past 2 months at least, maybe 3 months. Like just utter trash. Not playing terribly, not playing. They get rotated. Someone else on the team hauls. It's been really bad. Since I can't get to Ollie Watkins, I'm making him the Rumi pick to bring some pain. That'll bring me some pleasure.
Oh, I can't believe it. It's just typical. Every time I look at this, I think, oh Christ, this is who he's picked this time. I've had it. So there we go. So yeah, Nima's had to go and.
I was actually checking my transfers
recover off stream because.
So hopefully I've cursed Watkins.
Yeah, no, Ollie Watkins picks caused Nima to go off stream.
But as I say, you know what? I was tinkering with 37 because I don't have the free hit, and the move it suggests to me, and I think it's quite sexy, is to get Zaha as a midfielder on my free transfer in game week 37. So, but that's if I go down the Kane and Coutinho route, because I would have Kulusevski still, which means I could sell him. If I get Son, I'll be doing Kulusevski to Son this week. So I don't know how I'd get Zaha the following time, but I'm just basically like planning my fixtures and everything till the end of the season, and then I'm just going to clock off till next year, basically.
Gabe, infamy. They've all got it, infamy. Look, Coutinho Hall confirmed by FPL Dallas. There we go.
You become the new differential king. Whoever you pick gets cursed.
Someone else will haul. Someone else on the team will haul. Whoever I pick is the one in the mud. So
he picks a legendary, mate. You literally, it's unbelievably bad. But anyway, this is all the more reason for people to come and watch Net That Hall. Come and get bad choices, bad picks by the man on the beach.
A drunk man on the beach. That's me.
Right. Anyway, should we go through? Should we crack on? We've got to do first of all, we'll do the little interlude, and then we'll Nima, you're gonna do the bit on the polished performance. Ready.
Are you craving more FPL content? Then look no further than AllaboutFPL.com. Head over there for weekly articles from some of the top content creators on the planet. So what are you waiting for? Head over to AllaboutFPL.com, the website for all your FPL needs.
There you go, Nima.
Yes, so as always, this is the final episode where support for Net That Hall is brought to you by Manscaped. They're the best in men's below-the-waist grooming, champions of the world, as I've been saying for a month now. Manscaped offers precision-engineered tools for your family jewels. So they've just launched their 4th generation trimmer, the Lawnmower 4.0. So you could join 4 million men worldwide who trust Manscaped with this exclusive offer we have for you. If you use the code NTH20 at manscaped.com, you can get free shipping and 20% off. So hashtag ad, you can see it on the screen. It will be in the podcast description for the podcast listeners. It's on the YouTube description. And just imagine shaving with a sleek, well-designed, optimized trimmer that makes shaving time your favorite time in the bathroom. I know Gabe would agree. He's been making the most of his, but we'll come to you, Marino, because this is going to be your first Manscaped ad, isn't it?
Well, yeah, because, at this time of the day, I'd like to think this is a very, very polished podcast, but quite frankly, I'm totally knackered.
Oh, that's so good. How have you found have you been using the ear and nose hair trimmer? Have you managed to
Well, yes, at my age, it's the sort of thing that you have to do.
Did you have one before, or is this like?
Yeah, it's quite good. The nose thing, it's quite good. It doesn't make you. It's rather than pulling them out with like tweezers, like the wife would do normally, or some wonderful Turkish barber sticking cotton buds up your nose with a load of wax and then pulling them out, making your eyes make you look like a walrus, and then pulling them out and things like that, and sticking wax into your ears. I actually think they're very, very, very good. So I've been using that side of it. So yes, from my side, extremely good. I enjoy it. It's much better than being tortured by the wife for half an hour.
Well, you know what else limits the torture by the wife is using all of the other Manscaped products. So, the lawnmower, the plow, like use all of them, and then the wife will torture you even less.
I just love the names. The plow. I thought that was a constellation in the sky.
Have you seen the weed whacker? I think that's the one you've been using, Marin. It's called the weed whacker.
Well, I've got plenty of weeds. There's plenty of weeds. Yes, that's exactly right. But
there's also the crop
preserver. Careful about the weed whacker as to where you'd use the weed whacker, right? But anyway, that's another topic.
No, so there's the crop preserver, there's the ball toner, there's the ball deodorant for anti-chafing. They're just incredible stuff. And we were talking about the torch on the lawnmower the other week. I never thought I needed a torch on a shaver, but now that I have one, I don't think I could ever go back. Your balls will definitely thank you, that's for sure. I guess my final parting thought for the haulers would be that men, if you've been using the same nut trimmer on your face, you have been doing it wrong. Nobody wants to end up with pubes in their mouth. So go use the NTH20 code on manscaped.com and you'll get your 20% off and free shipping. And from there, I think it's time to go to the captaincy. And I'll play you a little jingle first.
Right, okay.
Nice one.
So,
right.
let me put back on the screen the epic fail. Hang on, here we go. I'm on the wrong bloody screen now. So we're back to 78% again. We seem to be wobbling around. We keep winning one, losing one at the moment. But yeah, 78%, thanks to a Mo Salah return. And where are we this week? Well, there we go. It's KDB. Kevin De Bruyne, who might go off a little bit early. But I would like to think he's already got a double return by then, Gabe. Would you?
Yes.
Yes.
I'm banking on that double return. I'm going full on with the captaincy metric. I believe in De Bruyne.
Kevin De Bruyne is top, basically. Fixed difficulty obviously has a big impact on this metric. It always does. And the reason is fixture difficulty, in my opinion, is just so critical. Now, our fixture difficulty, obviously, it has caveats, and that's why you need to think about Salah. And if you look down, you're looking quite a long way down for Salah there, because that fixture difficulty of 99, you see, is not great. In fact, it's pretty poor. If you change that to a equivalent of Watkins, he would be second. So there you go. So Watkins at the moment sits in second. So De Bruyne 1, 2, 3. Watkins miles ahead, actually. Watkins second, 104. Cancelo then 101. Son above Kane there. That is nothing more. And I'll tell you what this is to do with. That's to do with the extra point for the goal and the possibility of the clean sheet. The clean sheet just tips Son over Kane this week. And I think that's generally right. Captaincy, again, it was quite an interesting thing. You look at Jesus last week, 5 returns, and because he's a forward, it really does impact. It does impact the returns. So midfielders, you really do have to take into account midfielders in a captaincy decision, in my view. But yeah, I think Son over Kane there, very marginally, if you think about clean sheets. Watkins is a decent shout, above Coutinho, according to the metric as well. But De Bruyne stands out for Manchester City, and then Cancelo. For me, the order is okay. It's just Salah. What do you think, guys?
It's scary, man. I don't know about you, Gabe, but I'm obviously looking at a Spurs captain. Firstly, the fact that Son is a bit higher up than Kane, and Watkins is there, and the Son-Watkins combo looks more appealing than Kane and Coutinho in the metric. That is reassuring there. But what scares me is that I know this metric's obviously got Salah quite far down, but when I was looking at review, Chris, even when I put Son or Kane into my team, it still tells me to captain Salah. And that is a bit worrying for me.
It is, but I don't know how they do their metrics. I know how we do ours. I can tell you why Salah is lower. You make that decision whether you think he is where he should be, but it doesn't matter. From the perspective of the metric, De Bruyne is still the best pick this week. No matter what Salah's fixture difficulty is, he is not top. Salah's returns now have dropped back. There is no way he was the player he was, according to the metric earlier in the season. So Liverpool now, he's not even forced to be top of the metric. Right?
If I think Newcastle's defensive fixtures, defensive form at home and stuff, it definitely must play a massive part as well. And
it does, yeah. That's exactly the reason.
That's a big thing, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And we've said it all along. If you look at the context of the Newcastle fixture difficulty at home, and yes, they haven't played a Liverpool, they haven't played a Manchester City. Would it be completely different? Yes. Historically, that game's had goals as well, hasn't it? Historically, that game has goals.
What do you say to Sterling owners? So a lot of people took a punt either on Wildcard or as a transfer to buy Sterling last week. Jesus got all the goals and the assist. Sterling didn't look great. He's obviously been rested in the Champions League. He now faces Leeds. Is that a strong hold? Is he a captaincy contender if you own him, or do you sell him to De Bruyne and make the sideways move?
If you think he plays, if you think he plays, he jumps up to about third.
Okay. And I think if I had Sterling, I'd be pretty confident of him starting at this stage for this game.
Yeah. So if you had Sterling, he jumps up to about third because the rotation is there, right? And that will take off about 4 points.
And what do you think about so Blue Nix makes a really nice point about De Bruyne, Watkins, and Cancelo's Hall percentage being poop emoji, but they're all 8% basically. When in comparison, you look at, say, Son 25%, Kane 42%, Sterling himself 33%, and Robertson 42%. They're like the biggest ones, obviously, on that list. I know you've been saying about there's been some thoughts in your mind of maybe weighting the captaincy metric longer term, maybe next season, more on hauls as well, because we are net that haul, not net the points,
exactly.
Right?
So what are your thoughts on that?
Net that return. Net that 5 points.
No, it's a great point, and it's something that we are looking at. But bearing in mind, we are taking into account the chances. If you look at De Bruyne, right, look, he's got 71% chance of an assist, is what we're saying. So if you look at it like that, and he's got potentially some clean sheet points, and he's got 47% goal. So he stands out, doesn't he? Right? He stands out as having, the potential for both there.
Especially for this week, I think you're right. So when you look at, say, Son in comparison, he's got the 45 goal, which is less than De Bruyne's 47. And then he only has 30 for the assist compared to 71 for the assist for De Bruyne. And then similarly with Kane, it's a little bit better. It's
key.
not. Actually, it's worse.
No, but that's key, you see. So you think about rotation and things. So someone like Foden will get dragged down with rotation slightly. Sterling dragged down. Trent, Ronaldo, obviously, was probably going to play, but
Ronaldo 74 goal. Wow.
But 74 goal, yeah, exactly.
Minus for him straight out when I see that.
So yeah, that's my computer's starting to throw screen dumps on me and things. But no, looking at that, I think De Bruyne looks to me as a very, very, very good captaincy shout this week. Sterling, if you think he's going to play, also very good. I like Cancelo. I think he's a good option. But I wouldn't. Despite Watkins being up there, I wouldn't captain him. because
I
Gabe's
wouldn't
picked
go
him.
near him.
Because I picked him.
But actually, we should have another thing, which is that if selected by Rumi, delete 100 points.
Well, one thing I do want to say about Watkins is Hardy Mohammadi as well. He says in the chat, great point. He says about Kane, Salah, Son, Watkins all kind of being out of form. I do agree to an extent. One thing I will say is Watkins was very unfortunate not to haul silly against Leicester. He had 2 shots on target, 1 off target, 1 shot blocked, 2 successful dribble attempts. You know, he had 1 key pass. On another day, he could have had a double-digit haul. I think he was quite unfortunate personally in that game, and I think he looked far better than
life, isn't it? Isn't that the story of his life?
That was the story of last season,
Yep.
the talentless Watkins, right? As Lee would say from FPL family.
Now then. But no, I think it's a very interesting. As I say, there's room for changing this. We could change it into, we could change the percentage round on the weighting for hauling. We can look at adding zones in, which we are doing. We can tweak the fixture difficulty effectiveness down. We could add more things. Perhaps, Gabe, we even add NetxG in there, and we actually look at more of a rankings, who's top of each section, and then we sort of like take them all and then put them in at the end. I've seen other people doing that with various metrics, but not our numbers. Right. So I think it's worthwhile having a look at it. As always, we'll reassess everything in the close season, but it's still hitting 78%, which I think is pretty damn good.
I think it's better than my captaincy percentage last season by far, that's for sure. Should we go to the Twitter questions? I've got a few of them up here that I can read out.
Do you want to run it from there?
Yeah, so I think, guys, in the live chat, please do start to get some questions in. We will come to the live chat questions in like the next 5 minutes or so. We're going to do quick fire for Twitter. A lot of it, we're probably going to just signpost people back to timestamps if they've missed the show. So Craig, FPL_CP, one of the haulers, a member on YouTube, he says, is dropping Trent for Matip to free up funds justifiable? It seems that at the moment, Trent's returns, they've not been great. Matip is a bonus machine and he's 3.3 million cheaper. It would give him the funds for De Bruyne. So based on what we've just seen, what are your thoughts, guys? I think let's just take yes or no's here. And I'm sure Craig will be watching back the VOD, so he'll hear our thoughts about, everything else we've discussed, including KDB at some point anyway.
Gabe?
Yes.
No.
I think if you own Robertson already, I'd say yes. If Matip's your only Liverpool defender, I don't know if I could stomach that. No. But so FPL Dallas, who's here tonight as well. Yes, Sterling. He's wondering whether he should sell him to Son or Saka if fit this week. He's saying that if Saka isn't injured, he's very nervous to go without him with West Ham centre-back situation and the back-to-back penalties, and seeing that Saka's probably on them at the moment.
This is the tough one because they've both got there's risk with both, isn't there? Got to wait.
I don't think I'd sell Sterling this week. Not after the rest of the Champions League, personally, even if it was for Son or Saka. Okay, so then we have FPL Robbie, another one of our members who's here tonight. So best 6 million and under forward until the end of the season. So we've got Pukki, Dennis, Pedro, Nketiah, and Mateta.
Eddie.
I think so. I'd say at a push, I'd maybe say Pukki just because he's more guaranteed to start, and both his Game Week 36 fixtures are against Leicester and West Ham, 2 teams who are going to be prioritising Europe. Final question from Robbie is Sterling, Coutinho, or Son for Game Week 35 and 36. So Sterling, Coutinho, or Son for both 35 and 36.
That's tougher because of course. I think I'd probably go Son.
Even with the tougher double, I guess you would predict him to potentially still score anyway.
Yeah, he'll score against Arsenal.
And then Liverpool, he could easily get a counter as well. I don't know. I think Kane's the one who will score against Arsenal, but Kane will easily get a goal against Arsenal. I don't know about Son, but
I think Sterling.
No, I think I'd probably go Sterling. I mean, bear in mind, I'm thinking
I'd go Sterling. I would want the City player.
Yeah.
I would want the City player personally, and with that rest, I would go for him. So FPL
Sterling,
Robot.
you still think Sterling's nailed in 36, though. This is the challenge, right?
Yeah, but you could turn him straight into De Bruyne if you thought.
It doesn't seem like he'll be playing in the Champions League. Pep has kind of selected his team for that, so he'll be playing the league the next couple of game weeks, I think.
I think so. FPL robots, free hit 36 or 37. Obviously, we know it's team dependent, but he says he currently has more doublers for 36, but 0 Man City players. So I think this goes back to my point earlier in the stream robots, where I said if I had to take like a -8 in game week 36 to get from like a Kane to a KDB, I would just free hit and get 3 City players in 36. And just because like all of us will have 11 double game weekers probably, but if you've got very suboptimal doublers and you're talking about like Ramsdale and Ben White as 2 of them and a couple of other pieces of trash, then I would just free hit to get the City players. That's my thinking there. I don't know if you guys would agree on that. Because I think outside of Liverpool, I feel like City is the most important team in the double in 36. And if you've got 0 of them, are you going to end up with 1 or 2 maybe? So we have FPL Robots. Is Gabriel Jesus all right as my only City attacker? I don't know. Is your only City attacker? I've looked at my free hit 36 team. I will likely have De Bruyne and Foden. I'm not going near Jesus. I don't want money in the front line. John Chappelle has a question for you, Mariner. This is related to your rank. So he says you're ranked, obviously, at the time you were 90th. You've gone back up to 73rd. You were 64 points behind number 1, something similar now. What's your strategy for the rest of the season? Play safe and stay in the top 1,000 or go for number 1?
I think 1's unachievable now.
I think
1 is unachievable now. I think the harder you push, the faster you fall, is what I've learned. So I am probably going to just reassess, nibble, play on the EOs, and try and hold the top 100. Bear in mind, there are a number of people built around me still to unload 1 or even possibly 2 chips. So I'm going to find it tough to climb, but I may be able to defend. Is what I'm looking at. So I think it's probably, I think realistically now, if I get to a point where I have some luck, and get up close, get relatively close, I might have another go. But otherwise, I think what I'm going to do is I'm just going to try and cement a top 50 if I can. That would be.
I remember that was your goal when you were like 150 a while back as well, wasn't it? So still consistent. 3 more final questions from Twitter, but I just thought I'd ask this question, Gabe. I know we mentioned about Super Chat, and we said in the past that we hadn't turned it on. IBK he's saying, can I Super Chat? So I don't know if you give me permission to in the back end enable it. I don't know if it will let me.
I don't think we can
I don't think we can this stream.
I mean, look, just join us. Just become a member.
Yeah, it's only like $1.99. Just support us for the month. We're going to answer your question in a second anyway. But yeah, we are thinking about turning it on next season.
Yeah, I genuinely think at this moment in time, I prefer the membership side of things because, all we do is we provide, if you don't know, people, what we do is we provide all these metrics which you've seen, all the fixture difficulty, the metrics and everything. You see them about 48 hours before the stream. So normally, obviously, if we've got a very, very quick turnaround, then that's going to be, you just bear with us, right? But under normal circumstances, you'll get them 48 hours early, which means you can make your own decisions earlier and then come on and listen to us and maybe challenges on them. So, but yeah, I think for now, I mean, my gut feeling is that Super Chat's not for us right now.
Yeah, I think we said that because we do generally answer all the questions in the live chat anyway, we're not in a situation yet where we're struggling to get to the questions. But yeah, I think it's definitely something we're considering, and I think we might add a few more membership tiers in case anyone wants to support more than the $1.99 and just support us to grow the channel a bit and get better metrics, better graphics, etc. But in the meantime, we will come to questions in a second. There's just 2 more questions on Twitter. So FPL Yellow Army Roberto, on a game week 36 bench boost, would you get Ramsdale or Pickford as your second goalkeeper after Schmeichel? I don't think I'd be getting Ramsdale on that bench boost personally. Pickford based on those numbers. Pickford as well. I was gonna say I'm not that excited about Pickford either. He's like 0.9 million more than Foster. I know Watford are trash, but I would just get Foster personally and spend the money elsewhere. If you're bench boosting, you're going to need the funds to get a good bench, and goalkeeper is not where I would look at the upside.
Foster was actually even someone I've been I don't have a double game week goalkeeper, so I've even been wondering whether do I bring him in? I don't know if I dare. Quite frankly, it'd be good for a giggle, wouldn't it?
It would. So, a fellow Iranian friend of mine, FPL Tahara on Twitter, she asks if none of James, Havertz, and Werner play tomorrow, like what's the deal there? Like, do you then hold them? Like, because obviously they've got Everton away. I'm sure they do play, but I think of the players most likely to be benched, maybe it's Mount. He's definitely played a lot more. Havertz did not look good.
If none of them play,
yeah, like what do you do then? Like, what's your plan there?
Chris leaves net that hole.
The camera turns off. Yeah, I think I think actually they all play. I think it's more likely they get rested against Everton, which is just like 2 days later after Man United. And Man United have got some major injury woes. Everyone seems to be out. So, final question from Devindra Raj, and then we've got the final questions on the live chat. There's a few of them here from IBK, FPL DG Boy, Hardy, and a few others. So Devindra says a midfield of Mount, De Bruyne, Salah, Coutinho, and Brownhill. That's what he has now. I can't believe he's got Brownhill, Chris. Coutinho, Salah, KDB, Mount, and Brownhill. And he's got 3 chances of transfers. So A, B, or C. A is he gets Werner, Brownhill, and sells them to a 4.5 striker plus Foden. So Werner and Brownhill to a 4.5 striker and Foden -4. Or Mount and Werner to a 4.5 striker and Son. So there's basically like Son or Foden. Or he just does KDB to Son, no hit. I think based on everything we've seen right now, I'd probably just captain KDB and maybe take one of those -4s, but not captain them. But what do you think?
Yeah, nothing really leaps
I don't think I'd be
out.
selling KDB to Son before that double. I don't think I could do that. Equally, it looks like he asked that question before the City double got announced. So
he maybe changed his mind. Maybe changed his mind now anyway.
I think he would. So Hardy's question is, are Saka and Odegaard this week more essential or a City midfielder?
Well, which City midfielder's going to play? This is the problem. But you need to think about whether you need to bring one in, right?
I guess if you're not free hitting in 36 and you've got 0 City players or just one defender in Cancelo,
it's a problem for me. It's a problem for me because I could. I've got other ideas as well, and all of a sudden now this double's been confirmed in 36, which probably helps me in many senses not having a free hit anyway. But because it's there, I'll have to have a look at it. I mean, who's the easiest one to get to? De Bruyne's a nightmare. KDB would be a tough one for me to get to. I think so. I think it depends. I mean, you're saying no one's particularly hot on Foden. You're not particularly hot on Foden.
He's not looked great, right? You've said.
Yeah, I don't think he's looked great.
Yeah, no, I would agree. Equally, though, I think what he has shown is that he does seem to play nearly every game. He's not returning, but
no,
he definitely seems more clear. Someone asked earlier in the chat about any love for Bernardo Silva. Personally, not for me, but he has scored in the last 3 games. But I think he does this sometimes, doesn't he? He just like even that goal he scored in the Champions League, it was a banger. Like, you don't see that kind of goal often. Like, he's not. I wouldn't rely on that as consistent returns personally.
No, I think it's a tough one because you've got to think it's the team structure. I mean, Saka for me, look, I'm not selling him. Not even if I think he's if he's maybe missing this week, maybe just missing out this week. I don't think I'd sell him. I still think he's important to hold. That's my view anyway. So I'd have to look. You'd have to find another way.
I don't think Odegaard. I definitely wouldn't be looking at him
Odegaard's not. It's Saka.
I think if it was Saka and you knew he was fit and we're confident he's on penalties, and West Ham on Thursday look like they're dying and they play 120 minutes, maybe you're like, okay, I don't know which City mid plays. I'll just get Saka now. I'll cross the City bridge in 36. That's viable, I think.
Well, I don't even need to do anything, you see, so I wouldn't even need to make a. So that's the point.
True, yeah, that's true. So
very much depends on what happens. I think I noticed Pranil and Zoff aren't even going live till Friday.
Yeah, they've been recently trying to go live once everything's done.
They're waiting for that news, so you can see why there's a lot of things can change yet.
It does. By the way, against your better judgment, if IBK you're still here, I've briefly turned on Super Chat if you fancy supporting us. Turns out there's a super thanks that didn't used to be there, and it says turn it on. It says you're eligible. I don't know what we've done since last week that we're now eligible.
I have no idea. I don't even know how YouTube works. You know me.
I think super thanks is where they just say thanks and you don't even have to answer a question.
Super thanks.
Yeah, I've never heard of that one. But let's get to Dallas's question. So it sounds like it's an extension any of my midfielders worth selling for Saka if fit? So he has Salah, Coutinho, Mount, Sterling, and Gordon. And essentially, like, if Saka was fit, are there any of those there you would sell? For me personally, the only one I'd even consider selling, especially if you're not free hitting in 37 because you want to keep Gordon for that, is Mount. If Mount, because I think he could be rested a little bit here in this game against United, but if he plays another 90 against United as well, I'd very heavily be considering to selling him, because then I think he's rested against Leeds before the FA Cup final too. So at that point, if Saka's fit, I think Mount Saka's the only one I'd consider personally. But let's go to the next few questions. Let's do one of us answers each one, because we are definitely way over. And I think I was trying to leave about 45 minutes ago. But
You're for work in a few hours, Neiman.
Yeah, pretty much. We'll go to the office and everything. So do you want to answer this one, Gabe?
FPL DG Boy 88 asks us, Kane to Watkins for free. I would say yes, that move makes sense, but I've just cursed Watkins. So if my curse works, then no. As the Rumi pick. So if the Rumi pick keeps going and he's in the mud again, then no. But I like the move. I mean, assuming you're going to use that money to get KDB or something in midfield.
That is, I would say, like, if it's just a one free transfer and you're doing it this week, not in a million years.
No,
not in a million years.
No, I wouldn't.
A big thank you to IBK as well. Our first ever. So we've got our first ever hauler in the records, and now we've got our first ever super chat in the records.
All right.
Very supportive. He loved the show. He's been here with us.
I said, don't bother turning it on.
No, but I have to turn it on because, like, the reality.
It's all right. Don't worry, I'm not bothered.
No, the reason I say it is because, you know, Google AdSense, they don't even send you money unless you hit like a threshold. And our last payout was like November. So, like, just the monthly subscription cost for the monthly subscription cost for the podcast costs more than we've ever been paid by YouTube. And, like, I think this is like, me and Gabe had a look. This is the 58th episode of this season, including all the preseason. So, like, honestly, like, sometimes people just want to give you like £2 rather than subscribe. I'm all
That's
for
fine.
that.
It's no problem.
Thank you so much.
We'll take any charity.
We will. 2 free final questions. So, Blue Nicks, are Martinelli and Kulusevski both sells for Villa and City mids? Martinelli's a tough one, isn't he? Because he's not really been starting games, has he? He's like almost become an impact sub. And I personally think if Nketiah is starting, Smith Rowe partners with him better as a link-up player. And Martinelli suits Lacazette as a striker better because Lacazette drops so deep, it leaves that space for Martinelli to run into in the empty space. So for as long as we believe Nketiah starts, I do think Smith Rowe starts and therefore Martinelli will be an impact sub. So Martinelli, despite the upcoming double in the West Ham game, I think he's a sell. Kulusevski, that's a tight one just because he's pretty good at his price of like 6.1 million or whatever it is. If you can get to a Coutinho from him without a hit, it's a big upgrade. If you can do it, why not? I don't know how you're getting a City and Villa mid from 2, 5 million, 6 mil players, though. So it's a tough one for me there, Nick. I don't know how you're funding that. But
unless he's thinking about Ramsey.
Yeah, maybe that's the Villa mid. Yeah, but to be fair, yeah, maybe it's like Martinelli to Ramsey, Kulusevski to Foden. Maybe. I think that's okay. And if you're doing it with the doubles in mind and you have no chips, for example, I would go for it. Do you want to take this? Take these 2 questions from Jones Bloke, and then I think that's the last, and then Hardy. We'll take 2 questions from Jones Bloke and then Hardy, and then we'll get out of here just under 2 hours.
So Gameweek 36 bench boost: Havertz, Kane, and Alan San Maximan to KDB, Pookie, Watkins for a -4. Well, Havertz risk, Kane not great fixtures, ASM, yeah. KDB, Pookie. Yeah, I don't mind that. What about you, Gabe?
Preferring Nketiah to Pookie, but I like the thinking.
I like it. I don't mind this at all. I think this is good. The fact that you've got 2 free transfers makes this a really nice mini wildcard ahead of the because this is really the last single game week before we enter madness going forwards, right? If James not playing, would a sideways move to Alonso be worth it? It frees up about 0.8 million, doesn't it? I think if you can do something with that money, why not? Equally, if he's not playing, I'd be more reassured of him starting against Everton, and then it becomes kind of a harder sell, right? So I'd almost be more likely to sell James if he did start. I don't know. Let's see what state he's in. We'll take this final question from Hardy and we'll get out of here. So you can do Son to De Bruyne, Havertz to Saka, or Foden to Bernardo Silva. just on the last one, I wouldn't sell Foden, to be honest. I would much rather Foden, 100% for me. But yeah, that's just my 2 pence on that. What do you guys think about the other two?
Havertz to Saka if he's fit, but I just think Son. I don't know, Son to KDB. You see, for me, I'm just thinking I've got away with not having any Spurs assets for a couple of weeks now, and I've just
zero shots on target, right?
I've just got that horrible feeling that they're going to wake up again
against Leicester that's knackered. Someone did say in the chat, what if Leicester, even if they're knackered and rotate, what if they just like
they play the same way as
every other
team?
Yeah, because everyone's just like, if we just block Romero, passing to Kane, passing to Son, what are they going to do? And Doherty's out and Emerson can't cross. I saw a pass Emerson made when he was. This wasn't even an attacking pass. It was like he was in his own defensive third, and he tried to pass it to the other wing back. And he placed the pass so badly it went out of play for a throw-in for the opponent. And I watched it and I was like, this is a Premier League footballer out here. Oh, my Lord. Like, my God, I shouldn't laugh at him, but blimey, we dodged a bullet getting Tomiyasu for about 10 million less because Spurs were trying to get Tomiyasu, but went and spent 10 million more on Emerson. So good job, guys. And please don't unsubscribe if you're a Spurs fan. So just finally, we've not really said hit like or hit subscribe, but you know, if you've still been here an hour and 55 minutes in and you've not hit like, I would like to think you've enjoyed the show. Otherwise, you would have probably left by now. So please, if you've enjoyed the show, do hit like. If you're not a subscriber, do hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell to see our next lives. We'll figure out the date for next week and announce it for Game Week 36. That'll be a big one with the Captaincy Metric, I think. Yeah, if you want to become a YouTube member, support the channel. It's $1.99 a month, as we said. You get access to the metrics about 48 hours before. Obviously, they will remain free for everyone on the Matchup Show. If you're listening on podcast as well, please do leave a 5-star review on either Apple or Spotify. Now allows reviews as well, which is quite new. So I've only just seen that. So if you're on Spotify, please do leave a review. But honestly, it's been lovely seeing you on the live chat. We've had a great time. I know Gabriel will join me in joy that you've been back, Chris. We've really missed you these last few weeks.
It's been a interesting time for me, and you know, as I say, I've probably been less involved in FPL than I have been for years, but I'm delighted to be back, and it was great to, you know, I see people like people are friends now, people like Mike who we met at the meets, and shout out to you, Nima, for organising that. I've not been on since I've done those, and they're first class. They really are first class, and you know, kudos to you, mate, for organising that. But no, just in general, it's just delightful to be back, and yeah, I don't intend to be away through that type of reason anytime soon.
Yeah, I'm glad. I guess just before you say you're back, I guess just to add on the meet stuff. So we've had our 8th event of the season now, starting in September. Obviously, with just 5 friends, and now there's like 40 to 50 FPL managers coming on a monthly basis. We've got another one this Saturday, the 30th of April. Anyone who's in London or can get to London on Saturday will be there from like midday till like midnight watching all the matches. So please do come through, come enjoy them with us. I'm trying to make it a bit of a global FPL community where we take our virtual community, this lovely community we have, and try to support people to meet up together all around the world, not just in London. There's lots of questions about other cities, other countries. I'm really pleased to see the FPL Black Wolf in America on your neck of the woods, Gabe. He's now trying to take control of, like, he's done a couple of polls and he's trying to find people from different states and different regions, you know, East Coast, West Coast, Midwest, everything. And there looks like there's going to now be on the 22nd of May, Game Week 38, a Bay Area meetup. There could be a North Carolina meetup. We're going to do a freeway WhatsApp video call from all 3 meetups, including London, just to connect the communities. And now I'm also talking to people. Obviously, Chris has done Singapore for the first time on Friday. I really want to try and make meets a thing where it's not for profit, it's free. It's always about informal, casual, intimate atmosphere with like-minded people where you can find people you can enjoy the highs and lows of FPL with. And if we can just, you know, get everyone to meet at least one other FPL manager they've spoken to online and watch a game together, I consider that a success. So it doesn't need to be big, doesn't need to be a big scale, but message me if you want support and tips on how to grow your communities. And I want to, by the end of this time next year, Gabe, I want to be in a situation where we see like FPL meets chapters in like 10 countries, 30 cities, and everyone's meeting up and post photos online. Like, you're going to see FPL Twitter is going to just become spammed and overtaken with just meetups, and they're all going to be community focused, not for profit. I think that's the key thing.
Well, FPL Robbie, FPL meets in Southeast Asia, right? Bangkok. Oh God, I don't know whether I'd get that one past the wife, Robbie. But no, we'll certainly have a look at. Now things are opening up in Asia. We'll certainly try and look at things like that. But yeah,
and a big shout out to FPL Robbie as well. He's just extended his hauler membership to a 3-month pack. So big love for that support. Big love to IBK. I think we're at 11, 12 haulers now, so we've broken double digits. Great times. But yeah, we'll get us out of here. Hit that like. Is there any final messages you have from the beach, Gabe?
Everything's dandy on the beach. We have the captain of the ship back, and ready to finish this season positively, whatever that means.
What did you say, Gabe? I was on you're back on the bridge. I said, no, after last week, I'm on the poop deck.
Yeah, that's right.
Well, on that one, either become a YouTube member or you have 2 days to use NTH20 #ad on manscaped.com to get 20% off and free shipping. If 10 people buy ball shavers, Manscaped will extend this to a long-term partnership from the 1-month trial. So if you're looking to either lawnmower yourself or a nice gift to your other half, make sure you go and upgrade your hygiene routine, fellas. So on that note, lots of love, everyone. Great to see Mariner back, and I will take us out of here.